Before we start this episode, we just want to give you a trigger warning that this episode, we are going to talk about capital punishment. We are going to talk about murder. We are going to talk about sexual assault. Those are all things that we recognize the weight and gravity of. And so if that is something you do not want to listen to, this episode may not be the episode for you. So you should turn it off now. The other thing I just want to call out is throughout this episode, you will hear maybe some laughter, maybe some chuckling, things like that. And I just want to call out that we recognize, and obviously Tamara, the guest of the episode, recognizes the seriousness and importance and the gravity of what we are discussing. And so please take no offense to that. I think that is just a natural reaction as we are having and engaging in conversation, but we recognize the seriousness of that. So please take no offense to that. Let's get into the episode.
Now, if you're not ready, then go ahead and tell me you're not ready.
I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives.
In other words, the car didn't hit him, and he wasn't hit by the car.
I'm not a lawyer, but
are y'all keeping up?
The Debrief.
Hello and welcome to another episode of I'm Not a Lawyer, But
The Debrief.
I am Melanie, aka I'm Not a Lawyer, But, and I am joined by my co-host
Gooseby. How y'all doing?
And we get on this podcast and talk about a ton of legal things, even though we are not legal experts, we are not lawyers, we are none of the above, but we do have an interest, and hopefully you do too, and maybe that's why you're here listening. And so today we have another episode that is going to be a bit different than some of our previous ones. It's more similar to when we have guests, because we have a guest. I have reached out, asked for people who have been a juror before, particularly in murder trials, if they're interested in wanting to discuss that experience. I've asked, for people to reach out. So for today's guest, we're so excited to have a woman named Tamara, who is from Philly, and she was a juror on a murder trial. And so we are going to hear her story, her experience, how that was for her. So let me go ahead and bring her up. Hello.
Hello.
What's
everybody.
up, Tamara?
Hello.
What's up?
So thank you for doing this. I'm just going to kind of run through what we were able to figure out from what we saw from the articles we read, and then you can give us the insight from your experience, and we can start with like the jury selection, you getting the summons and all of that. So just for context for everybody listening, on April 21st, 2008, Omar Cash, it was the defendant's name. He shot and killed a man named Mulik Brown or Muliak. I can't pronounce the first name. Maybe
I believe they pronounced it Malik, actually.
Malik. Oh, okay. Malik Brown at a car wash. It was captured on surveillance video, and he was Omar Cash shot Brown in the back of his head, and then he fled. At the trial, Omar Cash did testify, which is not always something that happens, but he, as the defendant, did testify on his own behalf. He claimed he shot him in the back of the head as self-defense. And then shortly after Brown was murdered, Omar Cash went on the run. He committed a carjacking and a kidnapping outside of a Philadelphia nightclub. Some things happened with that situation. And then so that's generally kind of what happened. He obviously was brought to trial. And it said from what we read that it only took the jury, so including you, 35 minutes to come up with a guilty verdict. And then he was later sentenced to death. So that was like a general overview just to make sure everybody's kind of aligned on what we're talking about. But if you can tell us first, so you get this summons, okay, and you go down to the courthouse, or like what happens? How does it work?
Well, growing up in Texas, like I have been, registered to vote, able to do jury duty, never called.
Okay.
Oh, this is your first time.
Never called. I moved to Philly. I'm in Philly 6 months and I get called.
you.
So I was like, oh, okay, cool. You
Yeah.
fill it out, you send it back. It's not as easy as it was before, where now you can call ahead of time and then they'd be like,
Yeah.
we don't want you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so you go down to City Hall, city, down Center City, and you sit in a room full of people. And so we were down there after checking in. Of course, with all things, they don't tell you what your pool is for.
Okay.
I just know that they kept calling like 25 people at a time.
Okay.
25 people at a time. So my 25 came, and before you know it, we're in this like room full of a lot of, I think for his trial, I don't know how many people before my jury day they had went through,
Okay.
but I know in my pool we had about 50 to 75 people.
Oh, wow.
Really?
It took actually jury selection once I went back there was about 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Um, and we just sat for hours and hours,
Oh,
and then
my.
you go in, and then the defense attorney is there, the judge, and the prosecutors. They ask, do you have a bias? Have you ever had anybody killed by violent crime? And can you fairly hear all of the information and give a fair judgment? And
Uh-huh.
I was like, yes, no, are you afraid of the death penalty? I was like, no, like, I'm from Texas,
What?
Yeah, yeah.
and then they were like, okay. And then you go back in the room and you wait. And then they, told us, this, or they actually sent us to a different room. So then I found out later, if you got sent to that room, you were picked.
Oh. So in
Mm.
the moment you didn't know.
We didn't know. We weren't sure.
Okay. Okay.
With the
So
questions they were asking you, were they telling you about the case, or were they it's just
no.
in general? It's
It's
just like,
just in
hey,
general, like,
okay.
do you have do you believe in like eyewitnesses?
Okay.
Do you have people in jail?
Okay.
Things like
Ah,
that. Do you have family in law enforcement? Those were really what they were asking. So, yeah.
hmm.
Okay, so you get picked. How do you find out that you are picked?
Well, once we went in the room and, you wait some more, and then I guess they got, as many jurors as they needed. And then they came in and they were like, all right, so you guys have been selected for the jury. This is, a report on Monday morning at this time. Come through
What were
this
you
door.
thinking? Were you like, "Oh my gosh," or were you like
I
excited
was,
like
because we still don't know what it's for. So it was
okay.
just more like, "Ugh, all right, well, here we go.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, it's like robbery or carjacking or,
Yeah.
something that, in and out, a civil lawsuit, because they never tell us what
Didn't
it's
tell
for.
you.
And
Okay.
so you get in, and you have to go through all the security, and they sent us to like it almost looks like a chambers maybe,
Okay.
with
Mhm.
all these chairs, maybe a mediation room, because they had like a desk and stuff like that. But you go and you have to show your ID, and you have to show this little paper that they gave us saying, we were supposed to be there. And then they called us out by number. And then, like, it was so weird because they were like single file line, and you're gonna go this way, don't talk to anybody in the hallways. And we're just like, what is
What?
going on? And
Yeah.
so we were like walking, we're quiet. Now it's starting to kind of get serious because they have a bunch of
Okay.
bailiffs with us, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And we're
Mm.
just like, okay, so this must be this is a
Serious.
trial. So
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Trial, trial.
Then we go, and they took us like through one courthouse, and they had us sit in like an actual courtroom. I don't know if we were waiting for them to bring him out, or waiting till the family to be seated, or it's a lot of stuff they don't tell you.
Okay.
And I think all of that is just to kind of keep us even, like, so that you
Yeah.
can't form any type of opinion. And
Sure.
then they let us out like through a back way into the jury room. So it was like, how like hotels or bedrooms have like the connecting bathroom in the middle.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but it's like two
Okay.
courtrooms with like a jury room in the middle. And
Got
so
it.
we went
Okay.
through that.
Hold on now.
Hmm.
Are you telling me you the first time that you heard of the case, or you knew of the case, was walking into the courtroom?
Yes.
Well, when you get in,
They
right?
don't
When they
debrief you. They don't brief you before anything.
On nothing. Not at all.
So you're sitting, y'all just,
Yeah.
hey, we in here, and they're like
Yes. You
Is
leave
it
your
the
the
phone.
state versus this guy,
It's the
and
Yeah.
presentation of the actual case. It's not they're not
Right.
you
Right.
get it
So
the way that we watch is how you get it.
exactly. So once we get in, they tell you what order to sit. You leave your purse, your phone, everything in the jury room, and
Okay.
then you go and you sit down. And so once you sit down, then the judge says, "All right, so you've all been, selected to hear the murder case of," and then they start reading off everything that's going on.
So when you hear murder case, what happens in your mind? Are you like, "Oh shoot, what
Yeah,
are
immediately.
I'm sure.
Because it's like, this is my
what?
first one. Like, this is how
Yeah.
y'all, like, welcome to Philly. This is how y'all start me off. Got
Welcome
it.
to Philly. Yeah.
So, and you're looking, at the defendant, and, he's still wearing
Orange or
his
blue.
prison. Yeah. And we find out later that they had given him the option to change, but he refused.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, we don't know. We don't know why, but he did.
Yeah.
And so we just, buckled in, and then they
Yeah.
started with their opening arguments.
And so, just a pre-question before we kind of get into the process of the
Sure.
trial. Um, so what is your, if you care to share,
Mhm.
situation with your job, with your employment? Are you like, hey, do they pay you 20? Is the government paying you $25 a day for you to be here? Like, what is the process for you as far as your job is concerned?
Right. Well, luckily, the company I was with at the time, they pay you for jury duty.
Okay. Okay.
You just
Oh,
have
that's
to
good.
give them the paper, so you still get paid for the day. It doesn't come
Okay.
off your bill, and they don't take, like, I want to say at the time it was like $17, $15. It was barely anything.
Nothing. Yeah. Okay.
Because some companies will pay you for the day, but they want you to, like, turn in, like, not cash their check or something like that. It was one of the
Okay.
girls was saying that, she just needed a waiver and not the check or something like that. But, they didn't, we could get the little $17, and then
Yeah.
also, they paid for the day. So I didn't have to worry about that. I just,
Okay.
once the trial, because the trial ended up being about 3-4 weeks long, maybe a little bit
Really?
longer.
That's long.
Yeah, so every so often I had to, like, send, information to my supervisor, like, hey, I'm
Still
still,
here.
I can't give you too much information,. But I'm still
Right.
here.
Yeah. How did you feel about the makeup of the jury? Did you feel like it was a good mix? Or, I mean, even now looking back in a reflective state, is it like that wasn't actually that diverse?
It was mostly women. We only had,
Okay.
so I believe it was 10 of us. It was only 2 men.
Oh, interesting.
So, I mean, I don't know if that was strategic, because maybe the defense thought, women would
Mm,
be more compassionate. That's how I
right.
felt at the time. Once we
Okay.
started really hearing the things that they were saying and what they were using for his defense, I was
Uh-huh.
like, okay, they chose women, mostly women on purpose.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
we did, as far as, like, the racial mix, it was,
Okay.
pretty diverse.
Okay.
I don't recall there being Black men on the jury, however,
Okay.
to be
Okay.
honest. But it was Black
Gotcha.
women, it was, white women, so it was a good mix.
Okay.
And yeah, so,
Okay.
but other than that, there wasn't any Black men on the jury, though. So that was,
Yeah. Okay.
I am
So, and the
still,
defendant was a Black man.
yes.
Okay.
I'm just still shocked that the first time they heard this
They
was
don't want you
the
to get
day
no ideas
of
beforehand.
walking in. Did you feel like walking out though once you heard it was murder? Like, oh, I'm not ready for this.
No, I didn't feel like walking out. But it
Did
still was kind of like, what are we gonna see? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
mm,
watch a lot. I'm definitely, a true crime girly.
Okay.
So I'm like,
oh,
are we
Oh,
gonna
good.
see pictures? Are we
Yeah.
gonna, like, what are we gonna have to take in? Like, I think that
Yeah.
was, like, the hardest part, is, like, how, because they don't tell you, I mean, once they started the arguments, then you kind of find, you find out exactly what he did and how he did it. But
Yeah.
when you
mhm,
first just hear the judge kind of giving us direction on, what we're listening for, and, what the rules are, those types of things. Um, it's just like, oh man, like, what are they going to present to us? Because it could be anything. You really can.
Yeah. Was it so okay, we're into opening arguments, we're into first witnesses of the day, you're into it. Was it easy, hard to follow? Were you using your notepad? Were you following along as to what happened, or did you find at times you felt confused? How was the presentation?
I would say both sides did. I mean, the defense didn't really have a defense. I'll
Okay.
say that because it's on video. He's admitted it. So it was just more of them trying to, like, they were planning ahead. Like, it was almost like they knew we were going to find him guilty, but it wasn't like any concrete evidence on his side that it was self-defense as he claimed.
Okay.
um, so it seems like they were just more trying to make the consequences less.
Got it.
But the prosecutor, they were really good at
Okay.
breaking everything down, showing how it connects. They weren't like, overly, even when he was in the stand, they weren't overly aggressive with him or
Okay.
anything like that. So it was very easy to follow.
Okay.
More than anything, having the victim's family there,
Okay.
and they're kind of like listening because I'm trying to remember if any of them testified. I want to say the people who were testifying weren't in the courtroom, but
Okay.
the family that wasn't testifying was in there. And so just like seeing his mom there and things like that, like trying to block that part out of it,
Yeah, yeah.
it was kind of like, okay, just pay attention. But no, I didn't use
Right.
my notepad because I felt like I'll miss something if
Okay.
I'm writing, or just kind of take it all in, mental notes kind of after when we were
Uh-oh.
discussing. I would write things
Hold
down.
on, you froze.
Oh, did I freeze?
Oh, you're back. Okay.
Okay.
Last thing you said was take it all in, mental notes.
Yeah, it's just take it all in, mental notes, and that was pretty much it. But no, I didn't use my notepad or anything.
Okay. So you feel like just because you mentioned trying not to like focus on the victim's family, do you feel like you, as well as, the other jurors, really took serious those kind of the instructions that you were given? Don't consider this, don't think about this, or consider this. You guys really were like trying to make sure you followed the instructions that were given?
Definitely.
Mhm.
Because as the trial progressed, even with Omar, he's like drawing, or he's cleaning his fingernails, or he's like
Mm.
looking back. So you try not to like get an attitude with him,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So we
That
just,
was my next question.
focus. Yeah, because you're like, really? Like, no
Yeah.
compassion, no nothing, but you don't, we really try to, I mean, of course we're human, so
Right.
some parts, sometimes you have to be like, yo, you can see like his lawyer trying to, get him to
Ah.
please sit up, or, things like that.
You're on
But
trial, buddy.
yeah,
Oh,
like this is
shoot.
your life, but we did. A lot of times we would just, face the jury stand, listen to them, I just tried to keep eye contact with whichever lawyer was talking at the time.
Okay.
And, just kind of focus on that.
Okay.
That's what I was about to ask. Did you ever make eye contact with Omar? And
Yeah, he's scary.
yeah,
Mm.
But he does, like, when he was testifying.
Yeah, tell us about that.
We definitely, so he goes up to testify. His defense is he felt like it was either Malik or himself.
hmm
um he says that before he actually shot Malik, that Malik had did a drive-by at his house, or at his friends or family's house. So he was like that, Malik and his friends were hunting me down, and so was him or me. And then he was like, y'all don't understand, I didn't have a dad, and my mom, was a drunk. I've been taking care of myself since I was 6. Like, he's saying all of these things to us. So he's definitely like staring us down.
Oh.
So you do get eye contact with them, but it was just like nah, you just
Mm.
kind of, because he can't hurt you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
we're at, and they had lots of police in there and stuff, like they did have a presence in there, so
hmm
you don't feel unsafe. um
Okay.
but like he can hold a stare, so if he caught my
Yeah.
eye, I would look, but to let him know that I'm listening to you. But if
Yeah.
it got uncomfortable, I would look down, or something like that.
Got it. Did you feel like you were waiting for his testimony? Like, you're hearing all this information, and I mean, the person that all of this is about is sitting there. Were you like, yeah, please get up and tell us your side? Did you feel like that, or you felt like you probably should have stayed quiet over there?
I definitely felt like he made the wrong decision. We find
Mm.
out later, just from like articles, because of course after trial, you're like, what did we not, what were we not
Yes.
privy to? But his defense attorney had told him not to testify, but he, it's his right to do so, and he
Yep.
did.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
feel like it didn't do him a service.
Okay.
I don't
Mhm.
feel like it was needed.
Okay.
They showed us the video. It's clear, it's not grainy, there's like no
Oh,
question. The workers who were working at the car wash that day, they testified.
it was
Uh
in broad daylight, right? Daytime.
Broad daylight, yep.
Okay.
He was cleaning
Wow.
his rims. He wasn't, you can tell that he, like, I mean, common sense kind of says, like, if you do a drive-by at somebody's house 3 blocks away, you're gonna get
Mm.
out of there. You're gonna keep going,
Yeah.
you're gonna hide out, you're gonna lay low. Why would he go to a car wash?
Yeah.
Like calmly. He wasn't in a hurry. He was by
Yeah.
himself. He's
Uh,
just shining up his rims, getting ready for the weekend. And
yeah.
you see Omar just walk right up to him. And
Wow.
yeah,
Mm. So with that video, the video really solidified everything.
it
You
did.
know,
It
not
answered any questions you might have had.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not having to worry about trusting somebody else's word. It is what it is right here.
Right.
So, but okay, so on that note, you have this 3 or 4 weeks is long, by the way.
It's
So
long.
were you exhausted? Was it really hard not to talk about this case as it was happening? Were you wanting to go home to be like, "Oh my gosh, somebody got to hear about this."
Hold on, are you
But
married?
it was very hard.
Are you do you have a husband or a boyfriend
No,
there? Girlfriend,
at the
partner,
time I
whatever?
did. At the time I
Okay.
did. I was, living with someone, and me and my mom talk every day. So and she's in Texas, so I could have been like, girl, let me tell you.
Yeah.
No, I was just, like, yeah, still on jury duty,
Okay.
like you just play
Ah,
it off like, oh
Yeah.
man, like,
Yeah.
man.
but it was definitely like burning, and
Mhm.
but no, you just don't want to talk about it. Like some of the stuff that they were telling us, you're just like, I'm gonna leave that there, but at
Yeah.
the same time, it was like you want to be like, hey, can you come pick me up? Because well, if they're doing all of this
Yeah.
security to get us into the room, like
Yeah.
walking past like, Malik's friends and like Omar's
Yeah.
friends, and you know what I'm saying? Like the tension
Yeah.
was very palpable.
I'm
So you're
sure.
like, yo, y'all just gonna let us go? Like,
See you tomorrow.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Like nobody, not that I wanted to be sequestered, but at the same time, can we get an Uber Black or
Yeah.
something? Like, what are we doing?
You
Yeah, no, that's real.
that
That's
is
real.
crazy because on some high profile cases, especially back in the day, how they used to just off the jury, like
Mm-hmm.
and witnesses. It's and you're just they ring the bell and you go home. There's
Yeah, they
nobody
take us out the
escorting
secret
you.
exit. Yep, they take you out the secret exit in the back. They kind of wait until the hallways are clear, and then they're like, "All right, y'all report,
Yeah.
here tomorrow."
That's that's terrifying.
Yeah, you
Okay.
would have to like you said, Uber Black,
So-
give me a mask, a hat, some
right.
They
sunglasses.
giving you $17 a day. They definitely ain't finna order you no
They
Uber
can
Black or
something.
Uber at all. They
Something,
finna say good
anything.
luck.
Yeah.
I want to put this on the record right now. Don't ever, whoever is in charge of subpoena, putting out a subpoena.
Okay.
Yeah, asking people to become a juror. Don't do it. For
Yeah.
me, I'm not that guy.
Um, okay, so you get through this trial, which is very heavy and a lot of information, and you've,
Hmm.
listened through it all.
Right.
And then they turn it over to the jurors. They say, all right, you guys can go deliberate.
Right.
What happens? You go into this room.
Well, we go into the room because one of the other things is we definitely didn't discuss it in between, like at lunch and stuff like that.
Okay.
Everybody kind of took that time because they told us not to discuss it ahead of time. So
Yeah.
that's really when you had your phone back, so you would take that time to make calls, check
Okay.
in, with your fam, or
Yeah.
a little social media. We just kind of all went to our own little corners. So when we go back to deliberate, it did only take us 35 minutes. It was just because his mom gets up there, Omar's mom, and she's talking about how she wasn't the best mom. His sister talks about how he's never really had structure,
Mm.
and I think they had maybe an old school teacher or somebody try to say that maybe he had like a mental type disability. It wasn't a doctor though.
Was this before the verdict or before the
Yeah,
sentencing?
that was all. That was before the verdict.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when
Okay.
we go in the back, it was kind of like, okay, so before we find him guilty, you know, are
Mm.
we considering any of these things as reasons why he shouldn't be found guilty? Because we saw
Okay.
him do it. We know he did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So are we saying that it's self-defense like he's claiming and kind of just, leaving it at that?
Yeah.
Or are we going to go ahead and sentence him? And so it was just that. I mean, that really was it.
Okay.
People who did write notes kind of was like, yeah, because when they said XYZ, that made sense or whatever.
Mhm.
Somebody else was like, well, me and my brother was in foster care, and we ain't out here killing, like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, and then we were just like, so it's guilty, and everybody was like, it's guilty. And
Wow.
yeah. So
So he was it was the death penalty. So did
Well,
you have a list of charges or what?
oh, go ahead.
they gave us it was just no that from what I can remember, it was one charge. It was like,
Mhm.
murder in the first degree or felony murder or whatever it was. It
Mhm.
wasn't like you have the option for manslaughter.
Mhm.
Did they give us manslaughter? I'm trying to think. I think it had like one lesser charge where he would still go to jail for life, but
Mhm.
it was it was just basically innocent or guilty at that point.
Okay.
When we went to the sentencing phase, that's when they gave us, are we doing life in prison or are we going to sentence him to death?
So, at the point where you do the verdict, okay, you guys are voting on guilty or not guilty. Are you aware that the result, the sentencing for that is either death or life, or do you not know that part yet?
We do.
You do know. Okay.
We
So
do.
you do this, you come back out and the verdict is read,
Mhm.
guilty, all charges. And so you come back again, or does the sentencing happen same day?
Yeah, so we have to go out. We have to give the verdict of guilty.
Okay.
For me personally, I thought the judge would decide,
Mm.
life or death.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or somebody else, or another
Yeah.
jury would, do the sentencing phase. Like,
Yeah,
because
don't put that on me, man.
I thought it was gonna be like another little mini trial, if you
Yeah.
will, and they would be
Mhm.
like, "All right, you're gonna be sentenced," because that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
Um, when you watch it on TV, they, somebody else. All right, well, they found you
Mhm.
guilty, so this is what you're gonna get. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's what I was expecting. But then after we found him guilty, then the judge was like, all right, Omar, they made him stand. You've been found guilty. We're going to go into the sentencing phase of it.
Okay.
And they called us back the next day
Oh.
to
Mm.
start the sentencing phase. And so that was about another week
Oh my
of testimony.
gosh.
Another week.
So now and this phase is really like character, right? Like
Yeah,
it's really people testifying for both sides about why you should either give them the death penalty or only give them life, right? It's people
right.
testifying about that. Okay.
Right. Because they can't tell us during the trial what he's done before.
Uh-huh.
Or he's
Or
been tried
after,
for
right?
before. Yeah, they have to tell us after because they don't want us to be like, well, he has a pattern of XYZ,
Yeah. That
so
would
we're
be
gonna
prejudicial.
sentence him. Right, exactly. They didn't want anything prejudicial or that could sway us in any way other than the facts of what we were there for.
And so to
Uh,
be clear about that, oh sorry.
no, go
I
ahead.
think that I think that's wrong.
No, it would be
No,
prejudicial. Oh.
I'm just my personal opinion.
Oh.
I think they should tell you everything about this person
I'm going to tell you,
Go
I'm
ahead.
going to argue later when at a different point in time as to why you actually don't feel that way.
Okay.
But one of the things that even I talked about when I did the recap earlier is that following the murder at this car wash, Omar then proceeded to do this kidnapping and did some additional things. And so you guys weren't even privy to that information, right? You only knew about the murder because that's what you had to determine a verdict on.
Right. And we didn't even know that for the crimes that he committed after killing Malik, that he had already been sentenced and found guilty of the other things. So he was already serving a life sentence.
Got it. I didn't realize he had already. So they had that trial first.
They did, which was which was interesting. I thought, you know, in the aftermath, but they had that trial first. I'm going to assume that because the victim was still alive, they wanted to let, you know, get hers out the way so that she can kind of move on. But she came back. She testified in his sentencing hearing.
Yeah. And that's when you guys get this additional information and get to weigh that as far as how to sentence him.
Yes. And when I tell you he went on a rampage, after he had shot Malik, you know, as you know, just from reading, he's on the run, you know, he happens upon a bar. It's a couple who had just got engaged. He carjacks them. He drives them out, you know, far out Philly, and you know, on the way while he's in the car, and the woman doesn't speak English. This is what makes it even more heartbreaking. And she doesn't. So he has her in the back seat. He's doing things to her, and he's making the fiance interpret. I want her to do this. Tell her to do this.
This is terrible.
Think, you know, like over and over for hours and hours. Finally, he has them pull over. He kills the fiance. He takes her to a hotel. Once he gets her at the hotel, you know, he does things to her. She escapes. And, you know, she jumps over the desk. She's hiding. They call police. He runs again. And he runs to New York. That's in New Jersey. So he runs to New York. And the way that he got caught is he had a car crash on like a one-way street and couldn't get away. And when police ran his name, they found out he was wanted in New Jersey, well, in Philly for these crimes.
This is terrible.
Yeah. And so she's there and she's crying. She's crying. She won't look up at him because he's glaring at her. And she's like crying and she's shaking. And that was hard. Like we were crying. That one was hard.
Oh, that is terrible. That's heartbreaking. So you guys get all this information to consider for sentencing.
Yes.
And so that these people testify, including this heartbreaking story of this woman. You guys go back to the back again? Is that how it works? You go back to the back to deliberate?
Yes. And we get back there and now we know we're either sentencing this man to death or to life in prison, knowing that he's already gotten life.
Okay.
So that did take us 90 minutes. It did take us, you know, an hour and a half for that one. Because, you know, it's still somebody's life.
Yeah.
So then, you know, everybody's weighing all of the information. And, you know, we did have one person who was like, you know, she wasn't a holdout. She was just kind of like, let me play devil's advocate. And I was like, okay, but which devil are you advocating for? Like, what are we doing? But just kind of like, you know, but she really was just like, is this what we want to do? Like, can we live ourselves if this is what we, you know, want to do?
Yeah. Which is it's a good question. I mean, hear me out. I'm not playing devil's advocate, but I think the weight of the role and the fact that you got to have this decision, I think that is important to recognize the weight of that. And so that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying wait, I'm just saying having the moment to recognize we get to decide the fate of this person.
Right.
And understanding what he has done that's got him in this situation. I just think like recognizing that is power. It's big.
And I mean, definitely didn't, you know, rush into it. We took that, you know, what he had did after this most recent, and then, you know, of course, they had given us information that, you know, previously before that he had been accused of SA, but the witness never showed up, so he got off for that one.
Got
He
it.
had been previously on trial and arrested for an attempted unaliving, but the person who was like the main witness for that ended up unaliving himself, so
Oh,
he got
wow.
that one. And
Okay.
robbery, and the victim was like, nah, I'm out. So you know, they
Yeah.
couldn't find the victim. So
Goodness.
yeah, so we felt like all these things is what kind of weighted it, and we were like, on the off chance that, you know, we give him life, life isn't life.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it can just, he can get out as an old man and still, you know,
Yeah,
a menace, and you know, we don't know what is possible. And so
totally.
we're like, at least, you know, with the death penalty, even if he's doing appeals until he's 90 years old, or you know, we knew it wasn't going to happen like the next day, he'll be there for a while. Like,
Yeah.
we ultimately, we just wanted to give the young lady peace that she won't have to worry about getting that letter in the mail that he's been released, because we couldn't, you know,
Yeah,
do it.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
he
that's
yeah, his decisions, I think you all made the right choice. I would have been right there with you. That's
that's
nah.
heavy. That's
Yeah,
heavy.
heavy, yeah. That's real
Yeah.
heavy. Phew.
So you guys come out and have this sentence read to him.
Mhm.
And then what? You're just released?
Well, they poll us, you
Okay.
know, was there anybody who felt like they were like pushed into the decision? Does anybody like want to change their mind? You know, all these things they ask us, just to kind of make sure that there's, you know, nobody could come back later and be like, yeah, you know, they bullied me and I didn't want to do it. Or, you know, they ask the questions, and then, yep, they basically say, thank you for your service and your time. They send us back in the room. They emptied the courtroom, and then they guided us out. And that was that.
I wonder if they
Gave us
asked
no
Karen.
permission slips for our jobs, and that was it.
You say it again. They gave you letters for your jobs.
Yeah. I said,
Go
go
back
back
to
to
work.
work.
Thank you for
It's your hall pass.
Yeah.
your civic duty. So this has happened now, and I just have to say that when you and I were going back and forth, and I just remember, because I had been emailing a couple people about people's experience being jurors, trying to figure out who we could have on. And I mean, I asked you, hey, could you send over the defendant's name just so we can look it up? And I mean, instantly you responded with the name. And in that moment, I said, I wonder how this has affected her afterward. And so I would love to hear your experience after. This is massive. This is impactful. This is major. How has that impacted you? Do you think about it? Obviously, you've never forgotten his name. Have you researched it? All the things afterward for you. Life after jury duty.
I know, right? I
Mm.
definitely, every now and then, at least once, twice a year, because I see like, you know, what was the update? You know, did they overturn, you know, what happened? Because you know, things can happen on a technicality, uh,
Totally.
you know, or anything like that. So it's just kind of like, you know, where is he now? What's going on with them? Um, you know, have they carried out his sentence? You know, things like that.
Yeah.
So it does sit with you. Definitely, you feel uh, like you did your part, but it's kind of just like, wow, you know, you're like, this really like is happening, you know,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
Yeah.
not far from home, and you know, you see all the lives that are affected from it, you know.
Totally.
You do still feel bad because, you know, definitely the ball was dropped on his upbringing, you know what I mean? And
Yeah. Yeah.
does have mental things going on, you know, they were never looked at or taken seriously or treated or whatever the case may be. And it's like, it didn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, you know, a lot of these were choices that he's made, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. That's I'm speechless.
I know. Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
That
I know.
that is a lot. that's a lot to sit there and hear what he did, then see the guy that did it, sit there in front of him, make eye contact with him, and ultimately decide whether he lives or dies. Yeah, that's
was a-
Have
a lot.
you gotten a jury summons since?
I actually did like 2 weeks ago, but they didn't call me.
Oh, you answered the questions wrong this time. You like, oh, hell no.
It cannot be
am biased. I'm biased.
Yeah, it might have actually been a month ago, and then I had to call in like the morning of, and they were like, "Nah, you don't have to come in." I was like, "Whoo!"
I was gonna say, do you
Man.
want to? Do you feel like you never want to do it again?
It's a coin toss. I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind again.
Okay.
Hopefully it won't be as heavy.
Yeah.
My son just got his first ever
Oh.
jury summons, but he has autism, so we're gonna let them know like, nah, he ain't doing this.
Yeah. First of all, I know somebody put it in the Patreon that thank you for your service, I think is literally how they worded it. Thank you for serving as a juror, because so many people don't do it, can't do it, have never done it, will never be able to, won't be picked. So the fact that, you took that much time out of your life and dealt with something so heavy, like, is insane.
Mhm.
But so for people who maybe, thank you for letting us into this process. This is,
course.
so insightful. So thank you for that. What do you have to say to people who may watch this, who don't want to be called, or maybe will, somebody like Greg who may tell them, I'm biased, don't pick me. Any word you would give or say to a prospective juror, or somebody who may be subpoenaed?
I would say for us,
Mm-hmm.
we should do it. Because not every case is like that where the guy is actually guilty.
Mhm.
So we need our faces in there so that we can, where maybe the justice system isn't, treating the person fairly, or, we could be the voice either for the victim or for even the person who they're accusing of the crime, because we know it's not always fair.
Yep.
It's not always, honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just want somebody so bad that the first person they can grab, or the first person they feel that they can make look guilty, that's the person that they put on trial. So I think you should do it. You never
Yeah.
know. Sometimes it's going to be something as simple as petty theft, and sometimes it's going to be something bigger, but it's important that we do it.
Yeah.
We can't say the jury wasn't listening, or it wasn't a jury of the peers, but if the peers ain't showing up,
Yeah.
they
Yeah. Totally.
I'm
Yeah.
sold. I'm sold.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for this. Thank you so much.
This was
This was good for
good. Yeah.
enlightening us, for sure. And so everybody listening, make sure you take heed to the advice. And if you get a jury summons, go represent, be there, do your civic duty, and show up. So
Yeah.
Yes.
thank you.
But when y'all come to Philly, if you need anything, we got y'all covered like a blanket.
Amen.
Hey.
We love it. All right. Have a good one. Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
You too. Bye.
All right.
Bye. Thank you again to Tamara for joining us and talking about her experience. It was very enlightening, for sure, just the general experience, but also sharing such a heavy story, and I think something that's really impactful to people's lives. So again, if you are summoned and have the ability to, okay, I recognize circumstances don't always, allow people to, but if you have the ability to, I definitely encourage and agree that you should show up and do your civic duty. So thank you again for joining. And until next time.
Court is adjourned.